The wind, a phantom limb, tugs at the collar of your worn jacket, a relentless whisper against the chain-link fabric of the border fence patrol zone at midnight. Dust, fine as powdered bone, dances in the anemic glow of the watchtower lights, catching on the stubble that shadows your jaw. Each step is a dull echo, a cadence of regret. The badge, once a gleaming promise on your chest, is a phantom weight now, its absence a constant, nagging throb. He was close to something, you remember, too close? The official verdict, random act. You knew better. You always knew better. The air here is thin, sharp with the scent of dry earth and something metallic, perhaps the faint tang of rust from the fence itself. Your breath plumes white in the frigid night, a visible sigh. This routine, this lonely vigil, has become your penance, a way to forget, or perhaps, to remember with brutal clarity, the cost of your conviction. You trace the intricate pattern of the fence with your gaze, a barrier against what lies beyond, but more potently, a barrier against the man you once were. Marcus Thorne, the name a ghost in the annals of a forgotten precinct. A sudden, unexpected glare cuts through the gloom, searing your eyes. Headlights. It's not the usual patrol, not the familiar rumble of the local law enforcement. Your hand instinctively drops to where your sidearm used to rest, finding only empty air. A bitter smile twists your lips. Old habits. The car stops, its halogen beams pinning you against the fence like a moth to a board. Carrying an edge of authority. I trust one haven't interrupted your contemplation. You narrow your eyes, a flicker of the old fire returning. You've interrupted my quiet. And you know my name. So you're not lost. You step forward, out of the blinding light, your posture coiled, ready. State your business. Direct, as always. The voice, belonging to a man of indeterminate age, carries a hint of amusement. A quality much missed, I assure you. He leans slightly forward. The investigative journalist. The words hang in the air, heavy and charged. I'm out, you state, your voice rougher than you intended. Been out for years. My badge is gone. My reputation, in tatters. Precisely why you're perfect, the stranger counters, his tone unwavering. Untethered. Unbound by the very system that failed you. And failed Elias Vance. He pauses, letting the name hang between you, a silent accusation. His death, Marcus, was no random act. You knew that then, and you know it now. We have reason to believe it's connected to something much larger. Something that touches the highest echelons of power. A jolt, sharp and electric, shoots through you. You remember the vague hints Vance had dropped, the hushed phone calls, the fear in his eyes in the days before his murder. Who are we, you demand? Stepping closer to the car, your gaze piercing. And what does this something larger involve? A prominent politician, for starters, the man replies. Vance was digging into their connections, their influence. He found something, Marcus. Something they couldn't afford to have exposed. The words hit you like a physical blow, stirring a dormant rage. The official story, the dismissal, the quiet eradication of your career, it all clicks into a new, terrifying alignment. And you want me to? What? Dig it up again? For whom? For justice, Marcus, the stranger says, his voice now devoid of any amusement, solemn and earnest. and for a chance at redemption. The original investigation was stifled, deliberately. You were a scapegoat. We can offer you the resources you were denied, the protection you'll undoubtedly need. This isn't just about Vance anymore. The wind picks up, whistling a mournful tune through the fence wires. Redemption. The word tastes foreign on your tongue, a ghost from a life you thought long dead. The path before you is fraught with peril, a treacherous ascent back into the world you swore you'd left behind. The quiet of your exile is shattered. The tension in the air is palpable, a silent question hanging heavy between you and the man in the car. Will you step back into the fire? The metallic tang of rust and damp earth fills your nostrils. Redemption. The word, a phantom limb, aches with the memory of what you once were. You turn back to the man who stands silhouetted against the pale glow of distant city lights, his offer hanging heavy in the air between you. He is merely the representative, a faceless conduit for a power you vaguely recall, and deeply distrust. A chance, Marcus, the representative repeats, his voice a low, insistent hum, cutting through the wind's keening. Or a dead end, if you prefer this. Solitude. His gesture encompasses the desolate landscape, the endless fence stretching into the darkness. He knows your history, the tattered remains of your career, the shame that clings to you like the chill night air. He understands the fragile thread of your resolve. Your jaw tightens. The journalist. A memory flickers, a sharp shard of regret. Dismissed. Forgotten. A failure that cemented your downfall. To exhume it now. Is it a twisted game, or a genuine lifeline? A bitter taste rises, a mix of defiance and desperate curiosity. You search his eyes, but they offer no solace, only a pragmatic assessment. The files, you finally rasp, the words feeling like gravel on your tongue. Show me the files. A faint smile plays on the representative's lips, a victory barely concealed. He produces a heavy, canvas-bound satchel from beneath his arm, its weight substantial. Excellent. Follow me. He leads you not back to a vehicle, but along a narrow, overgrown path that skirts the fence line, eventually descending into a shallow, concrete-lined depression. Here, a rusted metal door, almost invisible against the earth, is revealed. It groans open to reveal a cramped, Spartan underground bunker, lit by a single, bare bulb hanging from the low ceiling. The air is stale, thick with the scent of old paper and dust. A single, scarred wooden table dominates the space, 2 folding chairs pulled up to it. Everything you need, the representative says, placing the satchel on the table. And nothing more. This is unofficial. Untraceable. Your ghost hunt begins here. He backs out, the door hissing shut, leaving you enveloped in the bunker's suffocating quiet. You stare at the satchel, its canvas faded, its leather straps worn. With a deep, shuddering breath, you unbuckle the straps. Inside, manila folders are stacked, their tabs yellowed with age. Photographs, documents, witness statements, all bound with brittle rubber bands. The sheer volume of material is daunting, a testament to the meticulous, yet ultimately futile, initial investigation. You pull out the first folder, case file, Elias Vance, journalist. Elias Vance. The name echoes, a distant bell. Brilliant. Inquisitive. Fearless. You remember the quick closure, the official narrative that felt too neat, too convenient even then. Now, with the weight of this second chance pressing upon you, you feel a new urgency, a sharpening of senses long dulled. Your fingers, once adept at sifting through evidence, now move with a hesitant grace. You spread the contents of the first folder across the rough table. Crime scene photos, the alleyway, the overturned trash bins, the splash of crimson against the grimy brick. Her eyes, wide and still, staring at a sky he would never again write about. No weapon found. No clear motive beyond robbery, yet her wallet, though emptied, had been discarded mere yards away. A small detail, perhaps, but it pricks at you. A mugger usually takes the entire wallet. You move to the witness statements. Vague descriptions, contradictory details. Nothing conclusive. But then, you find it, a small, almost insignificant notation in the margin of a police report. A colleague of Elias Vance had mentioned her working on something big, a story that could bring down titans. The original investigating detective had dismissed it as journalistic hyperbole, a common boast. You pick up Elias' personal effects list. Her laptop was missing. Her phone, found smashed beyond repair. But there's a small, leather-bound notebook listed as recovered, its pages water-damaged but legible. You find its corresponding bag, sealed in an evidence pouch. You carefully open it, your fingers tracing the elegant script. Her entries are cryptic at first, a spiderweb of names and dates. Then, a pattern begins to emerge. Repeated references to a specific shell corporation, Aegis Holdings. Mentions of land deals, rezoning proposals, and then, a series of dates that align disturbingly with the current political campaign of a prominent figure. A name jumps out at you, Senator Caldwell. You recall the news reports, the campaign rallies, the polished speeches of Senator Caldwell, now campaigning for the highest office. He's lauded as a champion of the people, a clean politician. But Elias Vance, years ago, was digging into something that linked him, or at least his associates, to shady dealings. You flip through more pages of her notebook. He had been tracking large undisclosed donations to various political action committees, funneled through layers of corporate entities. One name appears again and again, almost obsessively, the Collective. No further details, just the name, underlined with furious intensity. The official narrative had been a lie, or at least a convenient oversight. Elias Vance wasn't a random victim. He was hunting something, and something was hunting her. The connections are not subtle at all, not anymore. They are stark, etched in Elias' own hand, screaming from the forgotten pages. This isn't just about redemption. This is about a truth buried deep, protected by powerful hands. And you, Marcus Thorne, are now digging it up. The air thickens with unspoken threats, and a grim determination settles in your chest. The game has begun. The senator's name, Caldwell, echoes in the cavern of your skull, a discordant note in the quiet aftermath of memory. Elias Vance. Caldwell. The chasm between the two now seems to narrow, bridged by a thread of dread you can no longer ignore. The clean politician, lauded by the masses, once the subject of a relentless journalist's scrutiny. A cold case, dismissed and buried, now claws its way back to the surface, demanding your attention, your retribution. Years have etched deeper lines into the landscape, mirroring those on your own face. The skeletal frame of the fence, a rusted spine against the bruised sky, stretches into the gloom. You remember the initial chaos, the uniforms, the forensics, the hushed pronouncements. The official story, clean and concise, had been a random act of violence, a robbery gone wrong. But Elias Vance wasn't just any victim. Your gaze sweeps the ground, tracing the phantom lines of where her body lay. The earth here feels different, consecrated by tragedy. You kneel, your fingers sifting through the gritty soil, searching not for what was obvious then, but for what was missed. The forensic teams, efficient as they were, looked for what fit the narrative. Wedged deep into the base of one of the fence posts, half buried by the shifting sands of time and neglect, is a small, lead-weighted fishing lure. Its surface is dulled by weather, but as you turn it under the faint glow of your phone's flashlight, you see it. An etching, fine and deliberate, on its side. A stylized M nestled within a broken circle. It's barely visible, almost camouflaged by the lure's wear, yet unmistakable once found. A signature. A symbol. Elias, you realize, always left her mark. This wasn't random. She left this. A breadcrumb, swallowed by the official story. The lure warms in your palm, a small, heavy piece of defiance. It ignites a spark, a dangerous current of purpose through your veins. You slip the lure into your pocket, its weight a constant reminder. Your next stop is a dimly lit bar, the kind where secrets are traded for cheap whiskey and loyalty is a fleeting commodity. The air hangs thick with stale smoke and the low hum of conversation. You find the old colleague, a man whose hair has thinned and whose eyes now hold a perpetual weariness, nursing a pint at the far end of the counter. He was on the original team, a good man, but one who knew when to look away. Marcus, he says, his voice raspy, a ghost of surprise in his tone. He doesn't look pleased to see you. Just passing through, you lie, sliding onto the stool beside him. Thought I'd see a familiar face. He grunts, taking a slow sip. Some faces are best left in the past. You cut to it, your voice low, devoid of pleasantries. Elias Vance. Her case. Warning, crosses his face. He places his glass down with a deliberate thud. What's there to remember? Random act. Closed case. Leave it be, Marcus. For your own good. Random act? You press, your gaze unwavering, he was digging into Caldwell, into something big. You don't find it convenient that she turned up dead just as he was getting close? The old colleague's eyes narrow, his shoulders tensing. Convenient? The world's full of coincidences. You're out of the game, Marcus. Stick to what you know. Some things are best left buried. Powerful people. They don't like old graves disturbed. They have long arms, Marcus. And they don't forget. He pushes his glass away, a clear signal of dismissal. His words, though veiled, are a confirmation. The fear in his eyes, the urgency in his warning, it all coalesces with the symbol on the lure. The M within the broken circle. Could it be a corporate symbol? A secret society's mark? A political faction? You sit for a long moment, the clinking of glasses and the murmur of voices a distant hum. The tension in your gut tightens, a knot of ice and fire. You are no longer just haunted, you are hunted. The path you've chosen is fraught with unseen dangers, but the lure in your pocket, a tiny, defiant beacon, pulls you forward. The game has begun anew, and this time, the stakes are higher than your badge, higher than your life. You leave the low-lit establishment, the hum of the city a distant thrum against the ringing in your ears. Back in the quiet solitude of your makeshift office, an abandoned factory space with a single, bare bulb casting a harsh halo over your workspace, the journalist's meticulously organized files await. You spread the documents across a salvaged workbench, the yellowed pages whispering under your fingertips. The journalist, a ghost in your periphery, had a singular focus, a relentless pursuit of truth that mirrors your own forgotten drive. Your eyes scan the handwritten notes, the printed reports, the digital printouts recovered from an encrypted drive you finally managed to crack. The details begin to coalesce, forming a mosaic of corruption. The initial reports focused on environmental impact assessments, specifically concerning a vast tract of land near the city's industrial periphery. A pattern emerges, the acquisition of these lands, always at suspiciously low prices, always preceding a major infrastructure proposal. Then, the name of the prominent politician surfaces, not overtly, but through proxies. Donations to campaign funds from obscure holding companies, all tracing back to the same network of legal entities that handled the land acquisitions. You trace the web further, a spider's intricate design of deceit. The politician's campaign rhetoric, now echoing in your mind, suddenly takes on a sinister hue. He spoke of revitalizing the very zones the journalist had been investigating, promising job creation and economic boom. But the journalist's notes suggest a different narrative, a land grab, a deliberate devaluation, and then a re-evaluation for massive profit, all under the guise of public service. A specific name, repeated with increasing frequency in the journalist's later entries, leaps out at you, the Viridian Initiative. It's not a company, not a government body, but a consortium, a private-public partnership that seems to have its tendrils in everything from urban development to resource management. A shiver traces your spine. Why there? What could be discussed? At such a desolate, exposed location? The pieces click into place with a sickening thud. Your disgraced past, your lost badge, suddenly seem trivial against the enormity of what you've unearthed. The weight of it settles on your shoulders, a mantle of unwanted responsibility. They know you're digging. They know you're close. You glance at the clock, the digital numbers glowing a stark red, 10:47 p.m. 2 hours. 2 hours until the journalist's last recorded rendezvous point. You don't know what you'll find, or if you'll find anything at all, but the compulsion to go, to see, to breathe the same air the journalists did in their final days, is irresistible. This isn't just redemption anymore, it's a grim pilgrimage. The road narrows, becoming a rough track, the only illumination the twin beams of your headlights cutting through the inky blackness. The only sounds are the rustle of dry weeds in the wind and the distant hum of power lines. You step out, the gravel crunching under your worn boots. The border fence, a towering skeletal structure of steel and wire, stretches endlessly into the gloom, a stark divide against the horizon. Patrol vehicles are nowhere to be seen, their usual rhythm seemingly disrupted tonight. This place, at this hour, feels utterly abandoned. The ground is uneven, littered with scrub brush and discarded debris. You scan the fence line, looking for any anomaly, any sign the journalist might have left, any indication of the meeting described in their notes. Then, a flicker. Your hand instinctively goes to the worn grip of the piece tucked into your waistband, an old habit, a comfort from a past life. A low growl of an engine, too quiet, too deliberate, vibrates through the ground. Headlights bloom suddenly, blindingly, from behind you, cutting through the night. The vehicle, a heavy-duty pickup, accelerates, not slowing, not stopping. It's coming straight for you. You don't hesitate. Years of instinct, honed in countless close calls, kick in. You drop, rolling violently to your left, the sharp edges of the corrugated metal roof of the shed scraping your jacket, a searing pain blooming across your shoulder. It slams into the shed you just vacated, the impact echoing like a thunderclap, sending a shower of sparks and splintered wood into the air. A glint of moonlight on metal. You scramble to your feet, adrenaline coursing through your veins, a fiery river. They didn't just want to scare you, they wanted you gone, permanently. The pickup, now reversing with a screech of tires, is turning to make another pass. The figure with the weapon is closing in. You dart towards the fence, a desperate sprint, your lungs burning, the pain in your shoulder a dull throb. The fence offers little cover, but it's a barrier, a brief reprieve. Another shot rings out, closer this time, chipping concrete just above your head. You find a section, a gap in the lower wiring, perhaps cut by migrants or smugglers. It's too small, too tight, but it's your only chance. You wedge your body through, tearing your clothes, skin catching on jagged edges. You pull yourself through the narrow opening, the sound of the approaching pickup a terrifying crescendo, the footsteps of the shooter closing in behind you. On the other side, you don't stop. They know. And they want you dead. The stakes have just risen beyond anything you could have imagined. The stale air of your abandoned factory office presses in, a heavy shroud against the hum of the city. The stranger's words, a venomous whisper, still coil in the hollows of your ears, a promise of retribution you can almost taste. You are a silhouette against the single bare bulb, the only light in this cavernous space, sifting through the brittle ghosts of a decade past. Dust motes dance in the harsh glow, reflecting the frantic ballet of your thoughts. Each document, each photograph, a shard of the life the journalist lost, a piece of the puzzle that shattered your own. You pull boxes from makeshift shelves, the cardboard groaning under the weight of forgotten truths. The scent of aged paper, of dried ink, fills your nostrils, a melancholic perfume. You are looking for the flicker, the anomaly, the discord in the symphony of the obvious. Your gaze drifts, lingering on the periphery, on the details the official reports once deemed irrelevant. A boot print in the damp soil outside the journalist's window, hastily documented, then dismissed. A specific type of knot, intricate and precise, on the discarded binding that held the victim's wrists. Suddenly, your breath catches, a dry rasp in your throat. It's not the knot itself, but the way it was described in the original evidence log. Standard binding, common knot, the entry reads, scrawled in a familiar hand. But your eyes, now honed by years of failure and a hunger for truth, see something else. The weave is too tight, the twist too deliberate, the pattern too distinct. It's a specialized knot, one you'd only ever encountered in a very specific context, during a particular series of cases years ago. Cases involving illicit crossings, contraband, and a network operating on the fringes. And the signature beneath that dismissive entry? It belongs to the lead investigator, a man you once respected, a mentor whose judgment you trusted implicitly. He was the one who steered the initial investigation away from any border-related angles, insisting it was a localized, opportunistic crime. You remember his certainty, his calm dismissal of your own nascent suspicions, your own tentative connections to those peripheral cases. You remember how his authority quashed your instincts, how you, a younger, greener Marcus, deferred. You were there. You held that evidence. You looked at that knot. And you allowed yourself to be convinced, to be swayed. Was it an oversight on his part? Or something far more sinister? The trust you placed in him, the respect you held, begins to fracture, splintering into jagged shards of doubt. This is about your past, about the decisions you made, the path you allowed yourself to be led down. The journalist's murder, dismissed as random, now feels like a meticulously orchestrated event, its true nature buried under layers of professional deference and, perhaps, outright deception. The knot, so small, so seemingly insignificant, is a thread leading directly back to the very foundation of your downfall. You snatch a tattered map from a drawer, its creases worn, its edges frayed. Your finger traces the lines, the highways, the desolate stretches of land. It speaks of the border. You remember the old reports, the murmurs of a network using specific points for their operations. The decision is instantaneous, a jolt of raw purpose. You grab your coat, the worn leather a familiar weight on your shoulders. You need to see it, to feel the cold air of that boundary, to verify the chilling suspicion blooming in your mind. Your tires hum a relentless rhythm against the asphalt, each rotation pulling you closer to a truth you both crave and fear. The concrete behemoths of the city recede, replaced by scrubland and the occasional skeletal silhouette of a dead tree. When you arrive, the world has shrunk to the immediate glow of your headlights. The tall, imposing fence stretches endlessly in either direction, a stark, unforgiving line against the vast, empty sky. Barbed wire glints faintly, a crown of thorns on the nation's edge. You step out of your vehicle, the gravel crunching under your boots, a sound that feels deafening in the stillness. You scan the desolate landscape, your eyes straining against the gloom. This place, once dismissed as irrelevant to the journalist's death, now pulses with a hidden significance. You walk along the fence line, your gaze sweeping the ground, searching for any disturbance, any sign that the not silent story continues to unfold here, under the indifferent eye of the moon. The lead investigator, your mentor, had not merely overlooked a detail, he had actively obscured a vital truth, guiding you away from this very edge, away from the real story. The ghost of your past failure, once a solitary tormentor, now has a co-conspirator, a face you know, a name you trusted. The fear has transmuted into a cold, hard resolve. You will not break. Your fingers, calloused from years of gripping truth, dance across the aged keyboard of the laptop, its screen a pale rectangle in the gloom. The encrypted drive, salvaged from the journalist's hidden compartment, has yielded its secrets slowly, a reluctant tide receding to reveal jagged rocks. Days have blurred into nights, fueled by stale coffee and an unyielding hunger for justice. Each line of code you cracked, each fragment of data you pieced together, painted a clearer, more terrifying picture. The final piece of the puzzle materializes on the screen, a file previously locked behind multiple layers of obfuscation. It's not just a document, it's a ledger, meticulously detailing payoffs, illicit deals, and coded directives. Names, not just roles, begin to emerge. The scale of it threatens to overwhelm, but the face of the murdered journalist flashes in your mind, her hopeful eyes now forever stilled. You owe her more than fear. You owe her truth. A meeting, a drop, a clandestine exchange, it doesn't matter. It's a live thread, a chance to verify, to find something tangible beyond the digital phantom. The city's pulse throbs faintly as you leave the factory, the night air a sharp contrast to the stale warmth within. You drive, the city lights receding into a blurred memory, replaced by the stark, skeletal landscape of the outskirts. The road narrows, becoming a dirt track, kicking up dust that glitters like phantom stardust in your headlights. The air here is thin, carrying the metallic tang of distant industry and the faint, unsettling hum of high-tension wires. Then, a flicker. A pinprick of light, far down the fence line, a brief flash like a signal. Your hand finds the reassuring weight of the old service pistol tucked into your waistband. You crouch behind a cluster of thorny bushes, your eyes scanning the terrain. Two figures emerge from the gloom, their forms indistinct, their voices low, guttural murmurs carried on the wind. One is a hulking silhouette, the other smaller, nervous. You recognize the larger one from a grainy surveillance photo you'd found in the journalist's files, a known enforcer for a powerful syndicate, often seen near the politicians' campaign events. The smaller figure, trembling, hands over a thick envelope. The enforcer, with a dismissive grunt, pockets it, then produces a small, encrypted data chip, pressing it into the other's palm. Your breath catches. This is it. A direct exchange, tangible evidence of the conspiracy's reach, confirming the digital breadcrumbs you've followed. As the figures begin to separate, a glint of moonlight catches something the enforcer drops, a small, polished object. He doesn't notice. It's a lapel pin, bearing the distinctive, stylized emblem of the politician's campaign. A careless, damning piece of physical proof. Your heart thrums, a drumbeat of revelation. The pieces snap into place with a sickening clarity. The journalist wasn't just investigating, he was about to expose this very network, this very exchange. Her murder was a preventative strike, ordered by those whose names you now hold. You retrieve the pin once they are gone, its cold metal a stark testament in your palm. The weight of this discovery settles over you, heavier than any badge, more profound than any failure. You know the players, you understand the game, and you see the staggering cost. Your life, your reputation, your very freedom are now on the line. They will come for you. But in this desolate stretch of land, under the indifferent gaze of the moon, Marcus Thorne feels a surge of something primal, unyielding. The shame, the regret, the ghosts of your past failures, they coalesce into a singular, burning purpose. There is no turning back. You are committed. The truth, however agonizing, will see the light. You will be its harbinger, whatever the personal cost. The cold dread that had coiled within you now sharpens into a blade of resolve. It demands action. This systemic rot, this cancer on justice, will not consume you. Not yet. You move through the city's underbelly, a phantom among shadows. The old haunts you once patrolled as an officer now serve as your refuge, places where faces blur and questions die on the wind. Your phone, a relic of a past life, buzzes with a single, coded message from the former informant, a flickering beacon in the encroaching gloom bridge underpass. Midnight. Alone. A risky proposition, but necessity gnaws at your heels. The air thickens with a premonition of pursuit. You feel eyes on you, a prickling sensation that raises the hackles on your neck. They know you're digging. They know you're close. A black sedan, too clean for this part of town, cruises slowly past a grimy storefront where you pretend to examine faded graffiti. Your reflection in the smudged glass confirms your suspicion, a figure in the passenger seat, head tilted, watching. A sudden, jarring shift. The game has changed. You are no longer merely investigating, you are hunted. The sedan accelerates, then abruptly brakes, two hulking figures emerging from its depths. Marcus Thorne, one barks, his voice devoid of official authority, laced instead with a dangerous edge. Your heart does not pound, it tightens, a coiled spring ready to release. You pivot, slipping down a narrow alleyway choked with overflowing dumpsters, the stench of decay a momentary distraction. Their heavy footsteps echo behind you, gaining. You vault over a rusted fence, ignoring the tear in your jacket, landing hard on cracked pavement. This is it. The chase has begun. Your mind races, mapping the labyrinthine streets, recalling forgotten shortcuts, dead ends, and the flow of the city's unseen currents. A familiar sense of purpose ignites, a spark from your days on the force, stripped of its badge but not its instinct. You weave through a bustling market, a flash of motion amidst the kaleidoscope of stalls, knocking over a stack of crates as a diversion. Shouts erupt, buying you precious seconds. You need a sanctuary, a place to breathe, to think. The former informant's message replays. Bridge underpass. It's hours away, and the city is a net tightening around you. You ditch your phone in a storm drain, a final act of severance, severing the digital leash. You find temporary cover in an abandoned factory, its skeletal remains looming against the bruised twilight sky. Rusting machinery stands sentinel, silent witnesses to your desperate flight. Your breath hitches, not from exertion, but from the raw reality of your situation. As the moon climbs, casting long, distorted figures through the grimy windows, you begin to piece together the fragments. She'd been close to exposing how a vast, illicit enterprise was being funded, its tendrils reaching into every facet of public life. They've found you again. The pursuit is relentless. Your path, almost instinctively, leads you towards the city's periphery, where the urban sprawl gives way to a more desolate landscape. The former informant's meeting place is still hours away, but a different, more urgent need pulls you. You remember a detail from the journalist's notes, a coded reference to the crossing point, a phrase you dismissed as abstract. Now, it screams with new meaning. You are pushing beyond the edge of civilization, towards something raw and untamed. A stark, imposing barrier of steel mesh and razor wire, bisecting the land. Patches of floodlights cast harsh, artificial daylight onto stretches of the fence, but vast swaths remain swallowed by the night. The wind here carries the scent of dust and distant scrubland. You see them, the patrol vehicles, their headlights sweeping across the desolate terrain in rhythmic arcs. This is not the place for a clandestine meeting. This is a place of surveillance, of containment. But it is here, in the journalist's hurried scrawl, that she marked the crossing point with a star. You duck behind a derelict watchtower, its windows long. Shattered, its metal frame groaning in the wind. From this vantage, you observe the patrol's routine. There's a pattern, a blind spot. And then you see it, almost camouflaged against the fence itself, a small, weathered shed, not marked on any official map, half hidden by overgrown brush. Its door, barely visible, is ajar. This isn't just a border, it's a clandestine conduit. You slip past a patrolling vehicle during its farthest sweep, moving with silent urgency towards the shed. The air thrums with a primal tension. Inside the shed, the air is stale, thick with the smell of damp earth and old paper. Your flashlight beam cuts through the gloom, revealing crude shelves lined with empty crates. But beneath a loose floorboard, your fingers find a hidden compartment. Inside, not money, not weapons, but a stack of ledgers and a single, sealed envelope. Your heart steadies. The ledgers are filled with columns of figures, dates, and cryptic codes that mirror the journalist's own shorthand. They detail transactions, not of drugs or arms, but of something far more insidious: stolen identities, digital footprints erased, new ones forged. A black market of existence. You open the envelope, your fingers trembling slightly. Inside, nestled on a bed of fine silk, is a small, ornate silver key. It is old, almost antique, with intricate carvings of a coiled serpent on its head. And beneath it, a single, elegant card, bearing no name, only a symbol, a stylized, interlocking triangle within a circle. This is the key. Not to a lock you've seen, but to a deeper truth. They weren't just killing inconvenient truths, they were orchestrating entire new lives for their agents, making them ghosts in the system. A distant siren wails, closer this time. They are converging. You clutch the key and the ledgers, the weight of them both a heavy burden and a guiding light. The hunt is on, and you are both the prey and the hunter. The city's underbelly, a phantom among shadows, yields to your relentless pursuit. The blade of your resolve, honed by the journalist's spectral gaze, cuts through the grime of doubt. You carry the weight of their silenced truth, a burden and a weapon. The path forward, though treacherous, is illuminated by the ember of justice that still flickers within you. Your journey leads you not to grand archives, but to the forgotten corners where truth often hides. An old, disused data center, cloaked in the city's industrial decay, becomes your sanctuary. Dust motes dance in the weak light filtering through grimy windows, remnants of a forgotten era. Here, among servers humming with phantom data, the journalist had woven their final, desperate tapestry of truth. You follow the breadcrumbs, the subtle digital markers, the almost invisible physical cues only a fellow investigator could discern. A loose floor panel, a faint scratch on a forgotten terminal, a power cable suspiciously disconnected but perfectly preserved. Beneath the floor, tucked into a shielded compartment, you find it, a sleek, black data drive, almost impossibly small, humming faintly with stored secrets. You retrieve it, the cold metal a stark contrast to the burning urgency in your chest. Back in the solitude of your makeshift office, a space reclaimed from the city's forgotten architecture, you connect the drive. The decryption process is a dance with ghosts, a battle against layers of sophisticated encryption. Hours bleed into one another, your fingers a blur across the keyboard, your mind racing ahead of the algorithms. Each line of code cracked, each firewall breached, peels back another layer of the conspiracy, drawing you deeper into its venomous heart. Then, the data spills forth, a torrent of damning evidence. Financial ledgers unfurl across your screen, a meticulous accounting of illicit campaign donations. Shell corporations, like a spider's web, funnel vast sums, obscuring the true sources. Each entry is a thread, weaving back to the prominent politician, their name appearing in coded references, their campaign accounts swollen with laundered funds. But it is the final file, buried deepest, that sears itself into your consciousness. A voice recording. You press play, and the air in the room thickens, growing heavy with the weight of stolen breath. The politician's voice, usually so smooth and resonant in public addresses, is laced with impatience, a brittle edge of frustration. The journalist is a persistent problem, they say, the words a hammer blow against your resolve. Resolved. Permanently. before the next cycle of funding reports. The politician's response is a low, guttural assent. Ensure it looks random, an unfortunate accident, and make sure everything they touched is purged. We cannot afford any loose ends. The recording ends. Your hands clench, knuckles white against the desk. This is the undeniable proof, the smoking gun that links the politician directly to the crime, unraveling the entire conspiracy. Not yet. You have the truth. Now, you must use it. You craft a message, precise and potent. An anonymous, encrypted email, containing a small, tantalizing fragment of the ledger, a distorted snippet of the recording, just enough to be undeniable, yet incomplete. You send it to a public email address associated with the politician's campaign, the subject line stark, "I have everything." You have until dawn. It is a declaration of war, a gauntlet thrown. You know the trap awaits. You can feel its unseen jaws clenching, waiting for you to step within. But the journalist's face, etched in your memory, demands more than fear. It demands action. The response is swift, though not direct. A coded message, delivered by an unseen hand, slipped beneath the door of your temporary refuge. A desolate, windswept stretch where the city bleeds into the desolate expanse beyond, a place where secrets are buried beneath the vast, indifferent sky. You understand the implicit promise, bring the complete truth, or face the consequences. You will go. You will walk into their trap, a lamb to the slaughter, but a lamb armed with a lion's roar. The final pieces are in your possession. The confrontation is set. The ultimate showdown awaits. The recording ends. The silence that follows is deafening, a vacuum where justice should reside. Your hands clench, knuckles white against the desk. The journalist's murder, once dismissed as a random act, now stands revealed as a cold, calculated execution, ordered from the highest echelons of power. The truth, a bitter draught, now scalds your throat. There is no turning back. Redemption, if it exists, lies beyond this precipice. The metallic scent of the chain link, tall and unforgiving, permeates the air, mingling with the dry, dusty breath of the land. Your breath plumes in the frigid air, a fragile ghost. You had sent the anonymous tip, the coordinates, the bait, knowing they would come. This was the only way to draw the spider from its web, to force the truth into the harsh glare of the midnight moon. Headlights pierced the gloom in the distance, two pinpricks of light growing steadily, relentlessly, into blinding beacons. Two figures emerged from the vehicle, their forms indistinct against the glare of the remaining headlamps. The orchestrator. Marcus Thorne, the orchestrator's voice cuts through the stillness, a silken rasp, amplified by the open space. It carries no surprise, only a weary acknowledgement. You always were predictable. Not ghosts, you correct, your voice steady, betraying none of the tremor that vibrates through your frame. Truth. A truth you buried with a man who dared to speak it. The orchestrator takes a slow, deliberate step forward, the two operatives fanning out, their hands subtly moving towards their waists. A regrettable necessity, they concede, their tone devoid of remorse. The journalist was reckless. His inquiries threatened the stability we meticulously built. Stability built on lies and blood, you counter, your gaze unwavering. He uncovered the funding for the politician's campaign, the offshore accounts, the illicit dealings that kept Your organization afloat. A grand narrative, Thorne. But where is your proof? The journalist was thorough. A recording of the last conversation he had, detailing the entire scheme, the politician's complicity, and the precise moment your order was given to contain the problem. Your voice, clear as the desert air. The orchestrator's posture stiffens, a subtle shift, but enough. The operatives take another step forward, their movements sharper, more urgent. You think that little trinket will change anything? The orchestrator scoffs, though a flicker of unease crosses their features. It will be dismissed. You will be dismissed. Again. Not this time, you assert, your voice rising, cutting through the wind's lament. I've already sent a burst transmission. A coded signal, a dead man's switch. If I don't check in, if this device isn't deactivated by dawn, the recording, along with a dossier of every piece of evidence I've gathered, goes public. To every major news outlet, every independent journalist, every watchdog organization. It's out there, waiting. The orchestrator's eyes narrow, assessing you, the device, the stark implications of your gambit. The two operatives shift, their eyes darting between you and their leader, awaiting a command. The air crackles with unspoken threats. But you overestimate its impact. We control the narrative. We always have. You control nothing once the truth is out, you retort, your grip tightening on the device. The journalist wasn't just investigating a politician. He was exposing you. The network of shell corporations, the manipulation of markets, the leveraging of political influence to subvert justice and enrich yourselves. The murder was just one thread in a tapestry of corruption. And now, that tapestry is unraveling. You watch as the orchestrator's jaw clenches, the mask of composure finally cracking. The politician's presidential campaign, built on a foundation of lies, would crumble. The architect of so much suffering, now exposed. Get him, the orchestrator snarls, the command sharp, guttural. The two operatives lunge, moving with practiced efficiency. You don't hesitate. This was the inevitable conclusion. As they close the distance, you hurl the device not at them, but towards a small, prearranged marker near the base of the border fence. It clatters against the metal, a tiny, defiant sound. You duck under the first operative's clumsy swing, the rush of air against your ear a stark reminder of the stakes. Your training, long dormant, surges to the forefront. This isn't about winning a fight, it's about buying time. Time for the signal to solidify, for the dead man's switch to activate, for the truth to find its way into the light. The orchestrator's jaw clenches, a tremor running through the rigid frame. The carefully cultivated mask of composure, once an impenetrable fortress, shatters into 1,000 shards. Gat! Away from me! The words are a guttural snarl, not the smooth, controlled cadence you'd come to expect. A sudden, desperate lunge follows, a surprising burst of raw, unrefined power. You react instinctively, a ghost of old training sparking through your weary bones. The struggle is brief, brutal, a tangle of limbs and gritted teeth. He is not a fighter, this architect of shadows, but a cornered animal, fueled by the terrifying prospect of exposure. You feel the sharp sting as his elbow connects with your rib, the fleeting pain a jolt of adrenaline, but your grip holds firm. Then, the sudden blare of sirens, cutting through the night's thin veil. Red and blue lights paint the scene in frantic, strobing hues. The backup, finally. The other detective, his face grim and set, is the first to reach you, followed by a rush of uniformed officers. The orchestrator is subdued, hands wrenched behind his back, the metallic click of handcuffs echoing the finality of the moment. His eyes, now devoid of their predatory gleam, dart around, searching, perhaps, for an escape that no longer exists. The immediate aftermath is a blur of urgent voices, flashlights cutting through the gloom, and the cold, crisp air biting at your exposed skin. The ground beneath your feet is rough, packed earth, littered with the occasional discarded plastic bottle and the faint scent of diesel. Patrol vehicles idle, their engines a low thrum against the quiet hum of the high-tension fence. You nod, rubbing your bruised ribs. The pain is a dull ache now, a reminder of the desperate ferocity of the man they'd just apprehended. He tried to bolt, you manage, your voice a little hoarse. Didn't get far. The orchestrator, now a mere prisoner, is being led away by two officers. As he passes, his eyes lock with yours. Always. It's a taunt, meant to unsettle, to imply an enduring, unseen power. But you see through it now. It's the desperate gasp of a drowning man. The architect of so much suffering, now exposed. A uniformed officer approaches, holding a small, leather-bound journal. Found this tucked into his inner jacket pocket, sir. Looks like some kind of ledger. You take it, your fingers tracing the worn cover. It feels heavy, dense with secrets. Final payment, oversight confirmed. P. Instructs discretion. J. A. Julian Albright. The brilliant investigative journalist whose murder had haunted your career, dismissed as a random act, yet always a splinter under your skin. The politician. The discretion was a brutal, silencing act. It was never random. The ghost of Albright, for so long a reproachful specter, finally finds its peace. Instructs discretion. So, the politician ordered the hit himself. Bold, stupid, or both? Both, you reply, the word tasting like ash. He underestimated Albright. He underestimated what the truth can do. The news will break soon. Already, you can imagine the headlines, the breathless reports, the public outrage. The carefully crafted image of the politician, a beacon of integrity and change, will implode. The consequences are immense, far-reaching. The metallic hum of the barrier is a constant, low note in the vast quiet. The personal cost has been immense. But as you stand there, watching the last of the patrol cars pull away, their red taillights shrinking into the distance, you feel something akin to peace. The pieces have fallen into place. The truth, painstakingly unearthed, has finally seen the light. The journalist, Albright, finally has justice. And you, Marcus Thorne, have found a way back from the brink. The tension remains, a taut string, but now it is the tension of resolution, of an ending finally within reach, not the suffocating grip of an unsolved mystery. The night air carries the distant cry of a coyote, a lonely, wild sound, but even that cannot disturb the quiet resolve that is settled deep within you. It carries the faint, metallic scent of the fence itself, a skeletal spine against the bruised indigo of the sky. Each gust tugs at the collar of your worn jacket, a constant reminder of the exposed, desolate beauty of this place. The moon, a sliver of bone, offers little solace, casting long, distorted shadows that dance with the rustling scrub brush. Here, at the edge of something, you stand, Marcus, a sentinel in the quiet aftermath. The news broke like a dam, a torrent of truth unleashed. The carefully constructed facade of the politician, once a towering monument to public trust, crumbled into dust. You had seen it coming, of course, felt the tremors beneath your feet as the fault lines you exposed widened into chasms. The reports, initially cautious, quickly spiraled into a feeding frenzy. Every hidden dealing, every whispered transaction, every veiled threat that had once protected his ascent was now laid bare. The public, a fickle beast, roared its outrage, devouring the story with a hunger that felt both righteous and terrifying. Their tendrils, reaching into the highest echelons, were severed, one by one, in a brutal public dissection. The architect of the cover-up, the quiet strategist, found his carefully cultivated anonymity shredded. It was not a perfect victory, no clean sweep that eradicated every last vestige of their influence, but it was a rupture, a wound in their impenetrable hide. A deep breath fills your lungs, tasting of dry earth and the distant, unseen ocean. This border, a line drawn in the sand, feels like the demarcation of your own life. On one side, the relentless pursuit, the gnawing obsession, the ghosts that clung to your coattails. On the other, perhaps, a nascent quietude. The disgraced journalist, whose vibrant life was snuffed out too soon, now rests with a measure of peace. You think of her, Marcus, of the fearless light she carried, now reflected in the shattered reputation of those who sought to extinguish it. The cost, you know, was immense. Your badge, a symbol of a life once lived with fierce dedication, remains a phantom weight on your chest. The path back to any semblance of the life you knew is obscured, perhaps erased entirely. Yet, as the wind whistles through the fence, a mournful song, you feel a different kind of vindication. The random act of violence, the official narrative that had chafed your conscience for years, dissolved into the calculated cruelty of a powerful network. The truth, intricate and devastating, revealed a simple, brutal motive, the protection of an empire built on deceit. You are not naive enough to believe that one exposed politician or a few dismantled operations means the end of the organization. Their roots run too deep, their tendrils too numerous. They will regroup, adapt, find new faces to wear. But for now, the immediate threat is neutralized. The specific injustice that poisoned your past has been addressed, its perpetrators stripped of their power and their anonymity. This is not the end of the fight, Marcus, but the end of this particular battle, a crucial turning point in a war that will likely never truly cease. You look out across the stark landscape, the vast expanse under the watchful, indifferent moon. The rhythmic hum of the distant patrol vehicle, a low thrum against the vast quiet, is a reminder of the vigilance required. What now? The question hangs in the cold air, unbidden and unanswered. The familiar structures of your former life are gone, dissolved like mist in the morning sun. There is no badge to pin, no precinct to return to, no official capacity to reclaim. But there is something else, something forged in the crucible of your disgrace and redemption. Perhaps your path lies not in the official corridors of justice, but in the unseen corners, where the forgotten stories linger and the powerful still believe themselves untouchable. The fight for justice, you realize, is not confined by the walls of an institution. It is a flickering flame that must be tended, wherever it may be found. The wind shifts, carrying with it a faint, almost imperceptible scent of distant rain. You turn from the fence, Marcus, your silhouette stark against the pale sky. The ghosts of your past, though never truly banished, no longer hold you captive. They are understood, acknowledged, and finally, laid to rest. The journey is far from over, but the burden, at last, feels lighter.